Hey, welcome to our Godly Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Jason Freeman, and this is one of my favorite parts of the week. I love I love this time because I get to ask my guests questions and really bring the expanse of the stories to life. I mean, we each live amazing lives, but so often it's easy to forget amazement when we focus on just what is what on just what is right in front of us. So just to have an hour each week to bring that amazement back to life. And I get to be amazed by my guests and then share that amazement with you. And I hope after you listen to these, you'll start thinking about the expanse of your life and all the things you've been through big and small, and all the successes that you now take for granted and maybe have forgotten about. And I'm a perseverance coach and a professional speaker who ironically has a speech impediment. And I speak to junior high and high school kids about seeing the best in themselves. Even though life's challenging, seeing the best and going toward that. So without further ado, let me tell you about my amazing guest. You are going to be like, wow, does this woman have some just stunningly beautiful stories. So my friend Deborah Sweazey. But first, but first, so my friend who I'm having on today is Deborah Sweazey.
Today's guest, Deborah Sweazey.
More about Deborah. Deborah was born in New York and check this out, raised in Saudi Arabia. Her father worked for Saudi Aramco Oil. She is very well traveled and fluent in Italian. I'm not even fluent in English. After 20 years of service in Saudi Arabia, she and her family returned to Florida, her father's home state. She retired 7 years ago after a 40-year nursing career. That's a lot of nursing. During her career, she worked predominantly in hospitals and assisted living facilities, mainly as a charge nurse for several 200-bed facilities. It's a lot of people, including memory care units. She volunteered for hospice, Meals on Wheels, Red Cross, and taught CPR while working hurricane fairs and shelters. Deborah presently works with two successful online health and wellness companies. After experiencing her own stroke in 2020, she has dedicated her life to serving and helping others on their recovery journey by helping them gain the knowledge they need to improve their overall health. Without further why do I always say that? I don't even know what a do is, but oh well. Please welcome Deborah Sweazey! Deborah
I love that.
Sweazey's in the house.
What does that mean? Further ado.
Yeah, who knows?
I love that intro. Thank you very much, my friend. I appreciate it. I tell you, there was so much more to that bio with my childhood that I could talk for, like you said, 5 or 6 hours. I had
Mm,
an amazing, amazing childhood.
mm. And I love that you still love and are so grateful for you for everything that has happened.
I am.
So I want to go all over here from your childhood to what you're doing now, but what happened in September 2020?
September 2020 was kind of a real wake up call for myself. I ended up having a stroke. And after 40 years of being a nurse and taking care of people with a stroke, I never envisioned myself being someone that would have a stroke.
Mm,
I've always been very careful with my health. I walk, I exercise, I used to teach aerobics. I was a triathlete. I used to love to do triathlons and
what a
bikeathons,
triathlete!
more
Wow.
bikeathons than anything. I used to love to go long distance biking. And
When you say long distance biking, how far?
oh, probably we're talking like 200 miles one way and then come back. And we would
200
stop
miles
along the
one
way.
way and 400 miles in one day?
No, no, over a weekend.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah. And the
But
the
still.
top 10 people that would get back when we started by the end of that weekend got to go on, usually it was like a cruise or a boat dinner, exclusive dinner on a nice yacht or something. So I always pushed really hard and I most of the time I got it. I was one of the first 10 in there.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was really surprised when I had a stroke and I realized God had a purpose for me, Jason, by giving me that stroke and not making it towards I couldn't talk because I have the gift of gab and I love to talk.
Mm,
And by being able to talk, I can share with other people that sometimes just because you think you're healthy doesn't mean something can't happen to you. For me, it was basically because I was under a lot of stress and
mm,
my blood pressure was a little high compared to what it used to be. And I wasn't paying attention to it. And
mm,
I'm on a mission to make people realize when your body's telling you something and you feel tired, don't rub it off and say, I'm okay, because that's your body telling you something. And also, don't fall into thinking that strokes are usually for the elderly, because I've met so many young people that have had strokes, and I'm talking in utero strokes because of a venous malformation in the brain, and they had aneurysms and strokes after a traumatic brain injury. So that's what happened in 2020, kind of a
mm.
little bit of a wake up. My mom used to always say, or not my mom, my grandma in Italy, she used to say, you're so hard headed. God tries to give you a little whisper, but with you, he has to nudge you or drop a piano on your head. So
Mm,
that stroke got my attention.
mm. So, so, and you've used one of the things that I mean, there's so many things that inspire me about you, but one of them is that you've truly have used this stroke as a wake up call to step more into life
Yeah,
instead of a reason to get so afraid of life.
exactly.
Can
Well, I
you describe like how do you Did it take you some time to adopt the attitude, or did you have it right away? Or?
Um, I think, Jason, over the 40 years of nursing and watching people dying that didn't need to die and people losing their lives at a young age, I've always had a passion to be present, to be here at the moment. You know, I love the phrase, be present in the present, because it's a present. It's your gift. And a lot of people don't enjoy where they're at. They're focused on where they're going. And even with stroke, my first thought was, whoa, why me? Or woe is me. And then I thought about it and I said, well, why not me? Could be anybody. I know that for a fact. Why not me? And
Why not
seriously,
me?
why not? I mean,
Holy cow!
why do you have cerebral palsy? Why not? You know, and but
Why not?
it's true. And I
That's
went to
genius.
that dark place, I always say, for a hot minute, because I started feeling, I'm very, very much a Christian and spiritual, and I started feeling that by being depressed, scared, disappointed, all those big words, I was slapping my God in the face because he gave me a second chance. And I
Mm,
had to
mm.
take that chance and make with it whatever it was going to be. I did not know. Oh, Jennifer. I
And Jenny goes on too.
Hey Jenny, I'm going to be on Jenny's show. I'm so excited. So you know, it's just kind of like it made me realize that by being depressed and scared, what is going to be. If I was not going to ever feel my hand again, or be able to have put weight on my leg, my whole left side of my face was numb and tingly, and my hand stayed numb and tingly. I got my leg back first because it was the last to get affected. And you know that old saying, first hired, last fired, and that's kind of what happened. And I started realizing that even if this is where I was going to be, because the biggest thing I was left with is memory. Sometimes I'll stop for a minute and have to find the right word to put in where it needs to. Tim, I love you. Oh, I love having everybody on. Thank you guys. So what I realized is I need to find a way to be grateful. And luckily, I was at the time with one amazing business, and this was a health and wellness business, supplements and protein drinks and everything created turned into water. This company turns things into water. So you don't even have to take pills because it bypasses the digestion. So I was with that company, and a friend of mine was with another company. And she introduced me to something called Kangen water. This water is not just, it doesn't just take out all the pesticides and toxins, but it adds hydrogen and antioxidants, and it gets into the cellular structure of our body that regular water can't, because the molecules are too big. And she told me, you've had a stroke. You need to get some hydrogen and some real good, you know, water into your brain. You are dehydrated. And I said, dehydrated? I drink all the time. And she introduced me to this, and that was business number 2, because I was willing, Jason, to do and try whatever it took to better and improve myself as much as I could. And I don't like using the word recovery. Too many people get stuck on recovery because sometimes we don't recover completely, but we recover something. So I always say, don't focus on recovery, focus on those little improvements every day. And I'm on a few groups, stroke groups, and I see people that say, I miss my old self. My life is gone. I can't do anything. And these things just inspired me even more to help people try to learn to just pick up those little granules of goodness out of life and run with it. And I also love, it's like shoot for the moon. But if you hit and catch a star on the way down, still good, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's been my mission, is just to try to inspire people that doesn't matter how bad it is. And I know it can be really bad. I've seen some people that it is really bad. And so I'm not making light of that at all. But the little things that you could do that you think you can't do. Maybe you can't hike, but maybe you can have somebody take you into the woods if you love that, and just enjoy the wilderness and find the joy that you once had in a different way, And people can look at me sometimes and think, yeah, I'm so happy all the time and seem like there's never anything wrong in my life. I've had some really tough things happen in my life. I was in a car accident 20 years ago, 2 lumbar fusions, a lot of back pain, and a lot of back pain. And then when I had my stroke, I got more pain in that left leg, which was the leg that was injured through the back,
Oh, dude.
the accident. So people have been kind of cruel sometimes by saying things to me, it's like, wait, you must have not had a bad stroke. Any stroke is bad
Mm,
because it takes away part of your brain cells. A stroke kills brain cells. And
mm,
I may not look like I'm not the typical stroke person that has the drooping face, but trust me, my left side of my face can go completely numb. I get blurred vision. I get vertigo really bad. And my memory, there's times where my memory, I just tell my husband, I can't think, I can't talk, I don't want the TV on, I just need to lay.
mm,
So mine is all here. And it was in the thalamus part of my brain, which controls sensation. So I can go from really cold to really hot at times.
mm,
And the tingling sensation that I have on my left side can sometimes be very painful. It's almost like
mm.
little electrical
Ew.
pins. Yeah. But if this is it, what am I going to do? Lay down and be miserable? Or am I going to figure out how to make this be good enough? And it has to be good enough because that's what I have.
So before the next question, so let's get some comments. I mean,
Oh, yeah, I love that.
just so amazing. So I'm on the Great Podcast Not Podcast next week, and you are on the following week. Thank you, Jenny Gold.
Yes, we're excited.
Jennifer said, "Oh, will you read that from Jennifer?"
I can't read it.
The
So
only
small
difference
on my phone.
the only difference between a tragedy and a triumph, the choices we make in between.
Yes.
That's
Yes, Jennifer.
amazing.
Well said. 100%.
Jenny says, "Amen to that, Deborah."
Yeah.
And Dara
Oh,
says,
Della.
Dara, you connected me with Dara. You refuse to live as a victim. You are an inspiration.
Thank you, Della. I appreciate that. Where does it get us? Where does it get us?
So I'm fascinated with this idea of small positive changes and really attuning to those instead of obsessing over I lost this or I might
Hmm.
gain this. So can you give me an example of a few small changes you've noticed recently that you've rejoiced in?
Oh, absolutely. The last time I went to get my CAT scan or and my MRI, I was really scared because there were some areas in my brain that had some white matter, which showed there was some damage to the different parts of the brain due to the blood pressure that I had let go on. And he was a little concerned that there could be another stroke because it can happen. And I went in and he was so surprised at what my MRI showed. And I'm actually scheduled for my yearly one soon. But he asked me questions like, what are you doing? Because, your cholesterol is really good, your blood pressure is really good. For your age, I mean, you have all this energy. And he goes, what is it that you're doing? And I told him, I said, well, I kind of try to figure out what is possible for me to do that day and go do it. And I tell my husband, let's do it today because today's my good day.
Mm,
So I don't put anything off for tomorrow.
mm,
When it got really cold a few days ago, I went walking my dogs because I felt good. My leg didn't
mm,
hurt. My back didn't hurt.
mm,
And, and the days where I'm out and we're really busy and I want to pull in through fast food, I've learned not to do that. And I used to like to go to certain places. So I have taught myself the one big, big thing, but it's a little thing. I take my food with me when I go. My husband and I will
ah,
make we do. I'll make a
ah,
big chicken salad sandwich. I'll make a macaroni salad. So you have your carbohydrates, proteins. I put my berries in a in a
mm,
a, a, a shake. And so it's like I am learning how to actually be healthy outside of home because that was always hard. That was really hard for me. I used to love to zip into a really quick fast food place or
ah,
stop in and have a slice of pizza. And
mm,
I realized that the more I walk too, it's like I'm actually back in my heels. My biggest thing that I was upset about as a woman, I'm an Italian woman, and I think my husband says I came out of the womb kicking with those heels on because I can walk in heels better than I do in tennis shoes. And
what?
it's so weird, and that's what I wanted. And, so by strengthening my leg and using the bands that they give you in therapy, when I left therapy, I asked him, I said, "Can I take all those bands?" He goes, "You can buy them." I said, "I won't ever buy them. Can I have them?" And he gave me a handful of bands. And I tell you, the exercise every day, just stretching and knowing about sleep, because as a nurse, you don't sleep much. You work
Mm.
crazy hours. So I was used to
Were
4 to
you
6
working
hours.
like 12-hour shifts?
12-hour
Mm.
shifts. And there was years that I did 12-hour shifts 7 days a week when my kids were in college because I
You
needed
said
to.
7 days a week? That's like
Seven,
82
seven,
hours. That's 82
seven.
hours.
That's what
Ah,
I worked. I did that for almost 2 years straight. I did that, and, I had gotten into such a good routine. It was like I knew I would come home, I made my breakfast, I would eat light, I would go to bed, and then I would get up, and I would do my aerobics, I would exercise, and I'd go back. My routine was like clockwork. I mean, I slept, I would sleep 6 hours, but, I've learned now since my brain injury, I like to call it brain injury because that's what was injured more than anything, is I need 8 to 9 hours of sleep, and I'm allowing myself that. And I've found that when I don't get that, I start to fall backwards. I become very, sore, confused, my eyes get blurry, and I don't wanna do anything. I was scared to
mm,
drive for the first year after my stroke because I thought
mm,
I would never drive again because of my vision,
mm,
and,
mm,
I've learned that taking care of myself
mm,
and taking those small steps, whatever they
mm,
may be,
mm.
have added up in the last year. I never, never thought I would be where I'm at right now after that stroke. Never.
You're in such a beautiful spot. You're just in a beautiful spot, both like literally in Florida. It's like
Yeah,
10 degrees here is 60 in Florida, but you're
yep,
in a beautiful spot in your life.
yeah.
Deborah has a few words of wisdom. You are what you put into your body.
Amen.
And then,
Amen.
and then Deborah says, oh, what? Deborah says, someone said your body moves, your mind grooves.
I
Your
love that.
body moves, your mind grooves.
That is
Love that.
so true. If anything I can give advice to, and people will ask, it's always for me is a body in motion stays in motion. So pretty much the same
Mm,
thing. Because people, when I was working, when I was in memory care and I took care of, I was in assisted living, I would see these women, oh my God, Jason, 90s, almost at 100. They would get in their car, they would drive, and they would go golfing for the day. And they would come back and they would look so cute. And I'd say, how do you stay so healthy when some of them would be my age and they're on 10 or 20
mm,
pills? They don't move,
mm,
they don't do
mm.
anything. And they would always tell me, honey, the most important thing to do, move your body, stay active, and do a lot of laughing, even when you don't want to. So there's times where I can be so down on myself, I will take a ball and go outside and play with my dogs. I'm laughing
Ah.
within minutes. Within minutes. Dogs will make you laugh. There's no way you can be around dogs if they don't make you laugh. And my husband learned long time ago when I would get angry and frustrated over something because I can be very dramatic being Italian. He would just look at me and he'd go, and then he'd start laughing at me. When somebody's laughing at you, you can't stay angry. You just can't stay angry. So I've learned, along the
Mm.
way just to pick out the cherries, spit the pits out.
And you really learned how to shift your energy from one place to another place.
Yeah, I say I'm a good zig and zagger.
A good zig and zagger. And
I
speaking
am.
of zigzagging, and thanks for the perfect segue. But before I make that segue, if anyone has questions for Deborah, please chime in. I mean, I have an abundance, but I would love to get some of yours from around the country too. But but
Absolutely.
but speaking of in Dallas, Jason knows how to use his body from yoga. Yeah, I love yoga.
Yeah, you got to find something.
You gotta find something. So speaking of zigzagging, so we could talk for the next half hour about your experience with a stroke in September 2020 and your resilience and micro steps and all you do to stay healthy and that to me that so often is what happens when there's a crisis. We talk about the crisis and
Yeah,
then what comes after the crisis, but we forget about the magic that sometimes that has happened before, and that's powerful magic on our healing journeys to be able to really acknowledge the fullness of our lives. So,
absolutely.
so changing gears, zigzagging. So you were born in New York State. State.
Yeah, in Long Island.
How old were you when you moved?
I was only 3 months. My father had been on a business trip, and my mother was pregnant with me and had me in Italy. So when I was only a month old, they traveled to New York. Well, I'm sorry, she was pregnant when they were at a business meeting in Italy, and they came to New York, and it was a company meeting, and that's where I ended up. My mom went into labor, And I was 3 months after they finally got all their paperwork and got everything squared up, and they transferred my dad to Saudi Arabia. And my father is a brilliant man. He never finished high school, but he was a self-taught man, and he was an amazing welder. But also he was a diver, an underwater diver. Underwater welder. He did welding for like broken pipes under the bridges here in Florida.
Mhm.
So they hired him to be a welder. He did regular welding, on the pipeline above ground, but he also would go diving when a pipe would burst in the water, whether it was hit by a boat or it was just aging. So he would go in there and he created a contraption. Now they have them where he would put around the pipeline and he'd be able to go dive into it and did the welding for the company. And he was there for 20 years because they were teaching other people how to save money before all this oil would go into the Mediterranean Sea, and it was filthy. So I am so proud when I talk about my dad, because for
Wow.
a man who didn't finish high school, because he helped his parents. They were poor, but they had a welding shop and a lumber yard. So my dad turned into he became a contractor, a GC, and he also a welder, and then he taught himself scuba diving. So he used all three of those traits that nowadays people don't even do. And I'd love to see people learn some traits, because nowadays kids go to college and they come out and a lot of them don't even have a job, or they don't like what they're going to school for. There's nothing wrong with getting a trait. And my dad, when he lived in Saudi Arabia, we traveled the world, because for 3 months out of the year, they don't do this anymore over there, he got vacation, paid vacation,
Wow.
plus a bonus. So for 3 months out of the year, we would travel and we would go to different countries. We've been to every country except for France that I can remember. And
You
it was
mean
just,
every country?
I never went to France. We went to Greece, we went to Denmark, we went to Germany, we went to Italy.
Every country in Europe, you mean?
In Europe, yeah, in Europe.
Have you been to Africa and Asia
N-
too?
Never been to Asia either. I would have loved to. That was one trip my dad wanted so bad, and it just never happened. But mainly in Europe, in the EU, and it
Oh,
it was
wow.
just, and it was beautiful because we learned so much about different religions. We learned about different cultures. We learned about different foods, and I've learned to cook just about anything and eat anything. But the only thing that was kind of weird there is they only had the school curriculum in Saudi Arabia where we live in a compound, literally like a barracks. And there was maybe anywhere from 30 to 50 houses, depending on the compound. And they would have school, they would have a swimming pool, local swimming pool, a local theater, a local market, and that was about it. And so you grew up in this really neat kind of bubble, but
So
they only
talk about a small town feeling.
small. It was literally like, yeah, we knew everybody, period, literally. And but the school curriculum, they only had it available through sixth grade. So from sixth grade on, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, 12th, you got to go to boarding school, right? And so I went to boarding school. My first year was in Beirut, Lebanon. And I was telling Jason before the show was really fun because I didn't realize these boarding schools were like expensive boarding schools. They were foo-foo boarding schools, Gucci
Mm.
middles, or whatever. And I went to boarding school. My first year, I was with a girl that was, her father was an Iranian prince or king or something. And then the second year with a Nigerian princess. So it was really incredible, the culture of people that I was exposed to. And then the third year I went to Switzerland, And that was my favorite country and place in the whole world because you know me, Jason, I like the cold. And you
Mm.
put me in Switzerland, there's nothing but snow there. And it was beautiful. And I was actually there during the time that their auditorium had burnt down. Do you remember the song Fire on the Water?
Maybe.
Yeah, it's an old song. I can't remember who it was, but they were in concert there, and it was right down the hill. Our boarding school was at the top of this mountain, and there was a big lake, the Geneva Lake, and at the
Mm.
bottom they had a theater, a big concert hall, and that burnt down that year that I was there in school, and I remember hearing the song, "Smoke on the Water," that song. I was there when that happened. It was so crazy. And we just were so bad when we were in school there, my friends and I, because we were starting to get boy crazy, me and my girlfriends. So we would tie literally sheets together and climb out of the window and sneak out and we would go downtown and stuff. It was so fun. I mean, incredibly, my childhood, my upbringing is something that a lot of people tell me I should write a book because there's so
Mm.
many crazy, crazy stories.
Dell has a very logical question. Did you learn any Arabic?
Oh, salam alaikum. A couple of words. And believe it or not, my father, he could never speak it, but he understood it perfectly. I don't know why. The same thing with Italian. Italian was my first language. I learned it from my mom, and she wanted us to learn Italian because we spent a lot of time in Italy. And
So you learned Italian in your home.
I learned it with my grandmother and my mom in Italy. We spent a lot of time in Italy and when I was really young. And matter of fact, when I went to first grade, which was an American school, I couldn't speak any English. So everybody laughs that I had to do first grade over again, but I had to do first grade over again because I did not speak English. But yeah, Arabic, oh my God, Della, you and I could talk about some things. One of the biggest things I loved about being in Saudi Arabia is we would be invited. Go ahead and read those.
Oh, Rayanne Gardner, who's she's so amazing. She says I will have to watch the replay. Oh my goodness, two beautiful souls here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And then Jennifer says Deep Purple is the band for Smoke on the Water.
That's who it was. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer.
So in the home you learned Italian and you had to learn English when you went to school.
Well, I learned English with my dad, but my mother spent a lot of time when we were young because she had my sister 2.5 years after me, and then my other sister another 2 years, 2.5 or 3 years after that. So when she was pregnant, she would go to Italy and have, the births. Both my sisters were born, both of them in Rome, Italy. So I spent so much time with my family there that I learned that quicker than English with my father. But
Mm.
when I went to school, we knew we were going to an American school, but I didn't know enough of it to go through first grade. But we
Well,
all speak Italian, all three of us girls, and all three of us grew up more like tomboys than girls, and we love to do the girly thing, but there's
you
nothing we
wear the
can't do.
high heels.
Mhm. But I also like, my cowboy boots, and I love to go hiking, and I love to go horseback riding. I love to go gun shooting, whatever. And we learned all this from my dad. And I remember when we were young in high school, we would be in our bikinis on top of roofs helping my father build put put shingles on a roof. And guys would go by and beep, and we were like, "What are they beeping at?" Didn't realize it wasn't that common to see girls in bikinis on a, a roof. It was fun.
We Daniel Dangerfield Hall says hi from Maryland. Stephen Kaplan, a new friend from New York City, says here to support you, Jason. Thanks, Steph.
Oh, that's nice.
So you also said you would go camping in the desert of Saudi Arabia, right?
Yeah, well, we would always want to do something outside of the camp, and you couldn't go into the Arab area because
So
you would have
you
to.
couldn't just leave the camp
No,
and go walking.
there were guards, no. So you would have to plan it and go with a group of family. So on the weekends, like once a month, we would get like 10 or 15 families, and we would all put our trucks in a big circle, build a bonfire, and we would just go in the desert and go shooting and sleeping in our sleeping bags as kids, looking up at the stars. And my dad was so respected, and he was like very high ranking in what he did, and he would be invited to a lot of the Saudis and the princes that were very wealthy Saudis to their homes, and we would have these huge dinners under these tents with the most beautiful chandeliers. And I remember the first time we went to eat there, they had all this food on these huge trays, beautiful, beautiful trays, hand done trays and engraved. And they would have rice and vegetables and lamb. And I remember you were not allowed to use your right hand. It had to be your left hand behind your back. You could only use one hand, and nobody used silverware. You just grab food and you tear it and you eat it. And my dad was offered some the lamb's eyeballs, and that's considered a luxury. And I remember to this day his face when he said you don't refuse them either, so he couldn't refuse them. So he ate those. And my mom was so funny because she learned really quick too that you don't compliment because they want to give you, they want you to have it.
Oh,
It's yeah.
they
So
just give you more and
she would
more.
say, "What a beautiful chandelier." Before she'd know it, it was in the back of the truck. And my dad was, "Don't you do that. They don't." And my mom, she didn't know. She was just, it was beautiful. And my sister, my youngest sister, she was blonde and blue-eyed. And let me tell you, the funniest story is over there, money is valued by how many camels you have. And my dad, to this day, till he passed, would tease my sister and tell her he could have been a very rich man because they offered my sister. They wanted to buy my sister. He wanted to marry her for 50 camels, and that's a lot of because she was so different looking. And I had brown hair at the time, and my other sister too had blonde hair and green eyes, so they were wanted. I wasn't.
So,
It was.
so zigzagging again. Life is so vast. I mean, we could talk about
Mhm.
this for the next 15 minutes, and we will go over time because just so many stories. And will
It is.
you come back to Florida as a kid to
I
visit?
w Yeah, we would come to Florida to visit my dad's family, and that's
And
where
so
we.
there's a whole nother set of stories there. But
Yeah.
but then also you were a nurse for 40 years.
Mhm.
What's one of your this may be a hard question to answer, but what's one several of your favorite nursing stories? Of course, without giving any names
Yeah,
or anything.
my favorite place to work was the ER. That's where I started, and that was my passion, and it was because I'm the type of person that if you give me a lot to do, I get more done.
Mm.
There's something about doing things like fast. And so that was my favorite job. And I learned more there about the body than I had actually learned, because I would see traumatic injuries and, people with, the top of their heads out, and, burn victims. And, but I think I developed my compassion more so when I worked for hospice,
mm,
because for hospice, you have to be there while they're passing on.
mm,
And when I first started, I used to go home and cry. And one day I went to my boss's office and I told her, I am not cut out for this kind of work. I
mm,
was so sad because I would say, the other three nurses on the other two shifts, patients weren't dying with them like they were on my shift. And I was scared. I was young. I was 20 something years old. And I was
oh,
thinking, oh my
wow.
God, why are these people dying on my shift? And she got tears in her eyes and she looked at me and she goes, you're perfect for this job because you have the ability to make them comfortable enough to pass. People pass when they're comfortable. And she goes, tell me what you do. What do you, yeah. She said, what do
Wow.
you do when you're in the
Wow.
room? And
Wow.
I thought
Wow.
it was an odd question when she said, what do you do when you're in the room with them? And I told her, I pull my chair up, I hold their hand, and I'll talk, I'll sing, I'll pray. And she said, that's what you do, because a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people sit outside the room or in the chair in the corner. They don't pull up to that person.
Mm,
And I always thought, we don't come into this world alone. By God, I'm never letting anybody go alone if I can't help it.
mm,
So that was my turning point on compassion. Because the ER was just go do it. Do it. Take care of it, slap it together, send them to surgery. Whereas with hospice, I learned the value of life.
wow.
I
And,
learned a lot
and
of stories.
and sometimes in hospice, you probably really get to know the people because they're
Yeah, and the
there
family.
for in the family.
Yeah. And the
Right.
stories, I mean, I think I gained so much wisdom for people and life through the stories and listening to their not never do you hear somebody regret something they didn't do. They usually regret something that they haven't been the person they haven't spent time with. So, also people have taught me through that journey is sometimes even the people that love us can hurt us, and you need to step back and you can love from afar, because life is fleeting. It really is fleeting. I mean,
Mm,
I'm sitting here talking about my childhood and I feel like I'm back in those days and I'm 65 years old.
mm,
Talk about fleeting, right?
mm.
But I also volunteered. I did a lot of volunteer work because of my compassion for people. I taught CPR at the Red Cross. I was a volunteer nurse with the Red Cross in my town for about 6 years. And I used to teach, first aid and to all the police officers and the fire department. I was single at the time. What a better position to meet guys, right?
Um, I have something, but first, Ella says, "I love your beautiful spirit."
I love you too, Della.
So, so tell us a little about the joy of volunteering.
The volunteering, what I think I loved it because it didn't just teach me about people losing things. Like during the hurricane, we would have people lose everything that they owned, and people that were very poor. I also would volunteer with Meals on Wheels, which was kind of working with the Red Cross. And I was able to bring my kids to that. And I remember the first hurricane shelter I worked, we had to get there early because they were shutting the doors. And the shelters here in Florida, they usually do them in a school because it's built for the strength of the hurricane. And my kids they absolutely were elated to do this. Most kids don't want to do nothing with their parents. My kids were so excited to go in and set up in an office. We picked an office, we put our sleeping bags and pillows, and then we set up what was called the nurse's room, where everybody would come in and give me their meds because I had to give them their meds. We couldn't leave them around the building, there was no security. And they would give me their meds so that I could distribute their meds. And then I took and went with my children to the cafeteria where they were slapping together peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and cheese sandwiches and handing them out to the people. And that's when I saw I had the most pride in my kids, was when I saw them care for another human being. And what's so funny is they both ended up in the medical field. My daughter does ultrasound, and my son makes prosthetic eyes and facial features, but now he's in the roofing business. He just changed jobs a year ago.
Wow, that's
yeah.
Wow.
So they both went in the field of medicine, which was made me proud.
Wow. Wow. So is such an expanse well covering from your stroke to what's happened afterwards and all you are creating to your childhood and your dad joking about the 50 camels to the ER to
I told you, zig and zag.
Hospice to volunteering to the amazing people your kids are. What would you tell people listening about honoring the expanse of their life?
I love that phrase, be present in the present, because someday you're going to look forward and, like, I'm glad I was present in all those steps of my life because I have no regrets. And let's say if I hadn't done some of those things that I could have done or didn't volunteer and I wanted to volunteer, and then I'd had an injury that I couldn't do it, I would have always wished I could have done it. So I always say, do it today, stop putting things off because we may not have it. I tell my husband to this day, the other day I forgot what we went to do, and I told him, I said, we're going to do it now. And he goes, now? And I said, yeah, now, because I feel good right now. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. And he got the dogs, got them ready. I think it was taking them to the park, and got them ready, and we went, and we're going to do it now. Why wait? If you've ever wanted to do something or you like doing it, it's so easy to get caught up in that, I don't feel like it, I'm tired, I just want to lay down and put the clicker in my hand. Is that what you're going to take with you when you die? Are you going to remember the shows you watched with that clicker?
You're going to remember the shows you watched with that clicker.
Are you really going to? No. Everything I've ever heard from people that have lived to be so old have always said the same thing to me. Honey, do it today. Do what you want to do today.
Deborah, and I kind of wince as I think about this because it's bitter cold outside and I would love it to be warmer, but what do you so want to experience during a December some year?
Oh, I want a white Christmas. I told you next year I'm coming to visit Jason. I want a white Christmas. I've always 3 things that I never got to do with was a Broadway show, a cruise, and a white Christmas. Well, when I met and married my husband, he took care of the Broadway show and the cruise. So now we've tried a few years going to Tennessee and renting a cabin during the Christmas, but it wouldn't snow. So I need to go somewhere where I know it's going to snow, like Montana, the Dakotas. So that
So,
is the
so
only thing.
even in Switzerland, it didn't snow?
I wasn't there at Christmas. I went home to Saudi, and it
Oh,
doesn't snow in Saudi.
it just you have sandstorms, but that's not the
Oh,
same
we
thing.
have some sands, tsunamis. They're called tsunamis. Oh my gosh, they're horrible. Shalamis, no, shamales,
Ooh,
shamales. Yeah, and I tell you what, if you happen to be outside, you talk about that. It's like pins and needles
uh,
stabbing you.
uh.
Yeah. But, other than just go and live, my other point is, do whatever you can to make your health better today. And it's such a
Mm,
simple thing. So many people get wrapped up in not moving forward with getting healthy, and it is harder to stay healthier than it is to eat junk food and fast food. Granted, it is. But when you learn to meal prep and you learn the right supplements to take and, the good things that your body needs, you become so habitual to it that it's natural and simple. So if anybody
mm,
wants to learn about what I do to stay healthy, how to meal prep to whereas you just grab a bag and go when you're running errands all day, and what you're going to eat out of your own
mm,
car and your own cooler, I promise
mm,
you, is going to make you feel better through the day. It's going to give you fuel through the day, and you're not going to feel these lulls. These lulls that
mm.
people feel, and they go running in and get a coffee. Why is coffee such a huge thing in this country? Because people are wanting energy. You can get that from your food.
Mm. This brings up before the last comments in the last question. How should people get a hold of you?
You can get hold of me on Deborah Sweazey on Facebook, and just send me a message. Usually, I'm pretty much on there every day checking messages. And anybody that wants help, I would love to just take your hand and show you what I do and teach you about the supplements that I take and the companies that I work with, guys, because they are two of the most unique, powerful companies that have products that you feel. And that's all I'm going to say about that. If you're taking something and you're not feeling it, you're not taking something good.
Mm, beautiful. And I'm putting Deborah Sweazey, DeborahSweazey, right?
Yep, that's it.
I'm putting that banner up. But so Della and Jenny Gold are trying to make you jealous. Della says it's minus 20 degrees in Toronto. Oh, you're missing out on that. I
Well, as
use
long as
that.
it's snowing, I'm jealous. If it's just cold, you can keep it because it's cold here.
Oh, Jenny says, it, I was going to say you can come to Denver, but it's really snowing now. So maybe Denver will be the place to be.
Yeah, or Montana. I'm thinking I got to go to Alaska.
Hmm.
I would
And
love to
you,
go to Alaska.
and you could do a cruise there too,
Mhm.
and get
Yeah. Two
another
birds
cruise.
with one stone, right?
Uh-huh.
That would be
Um.
fun.
So last question. I talk about the power of doing our imperfect best, and what it means to me is we have a vision of our best, but when imperfections come up, we use them. We learn from them and use them as inspiration to move forward instead of stopping or going backward. What does doing your imperfect best mean to
Love
you?
that question. Love that question because I can answer it now. Maybe a year ago before that, I may not have. Um, I'm a Virgo and I am a typical A personality, very particular, very structured, and perfectionist. And my stroke changed that for me. It's taught me that I don't have to do it perfectly. I just have to do it.
Mm,
And
mm,
sometimes I get very confused for a few minutes and I get angry and I start getting angry and my husband goes, "Remember, you may never get that back." And I can't think of words really quick like I used to. If I had to work today as a nurse, I don't think I could, to be honest. But there are things I can do, which I am doing, which is the online businesses. But I think we need to just cut ourselves some slack when it comes to
mm,
that imperfect. And I think we're our own worst critics. And if we could love ourselves a little bit more, it's not selfish, it's selfless, and it's important. And it's
mm,
taken me a long time through my life to learn the words that my grandma used to tell me in Italy. And I never
mm,
dawned on me what they were till I was in my 40s, 50s, actually. After me, you come first.
mm. Oh my! After me, you come
After
first.
after me, you come
Oh my
first.
gosh, that's so
Mhm.
good.
And she used to tell me that, and she'd always say, "In life, honey, you'll never have a problem if you always remember, after me, you come first." You have to put yourself first,
Oh,
or and if people don't like it
oh.
because you are doing that for yourself, those are people that don't love you. Those are people that don't care about you. Because if someone tells me, "No, I can't take you, to the store, or I can't do that for you because I'm doing this, that, and the other for myself," I get it. I'm like, "Oh, take care of yourself." So if
Mm,
somebody pushes me and tells me to do something for them when I'm doing something for me, that person is not in my corner.
mm. Speaking of loving ourselves and then having capacity to love other people, Deborah says, I love
Like,
you."
love you. Della, guys, if you guys are not watching my beautiful friend Della's show, it's called Della's Voice on Facebook. Please watch her on Sundays. This Sunday, she has an amazing friend of mine on who had something called spasmodic dysphonia. She lost her voice due to stress, guys. Another story you want to watch. Stress
Wow.
doesn't just give you stroke. Stress can do some other things. She lost her voice for years and she figured out on her own. She's an author and wrote the book, Releasing the Stranglehold. You guys
Wow.
watch Della's Voice on Sunday at noon Eastern Standard. Della's Voice. Watch it. She's got some amazing guests. She had my beautiful friend Jason on there.
Yeah, I agree. Dell is an amazing interviewer, and she is so devoted to her craft.
Hmm.
I think she says she's on episode 300, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
And she's
wow.
beautiful too. She's not hard to look at. So you guys get over there and go watch Della's Voice. And she's trying to get more viewers. So you guys go to her YouTube channel and subscribe.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, Deborah.
I enjoyed it, Jason. Thank you so much.
Mm.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great day being warm. Oh my God, that's so fun. It's so fun. I mean, Deborah has an amazing story. Just could talk for hours, right? And 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 I encourage you to be to just be curious about the nuances of your own story that you may have not thought about for a while, and remember that, and write it down, and tell other people if it excites you. And I encourage you to be curious about other people. The people around you have such fascinating stories, and just ask them questions. It's so fun. As as the um as the magnificent Tim Soren says, hashtag be curious. And then Alex says, my mom had a stroke as a nurse. I'll listen again. Good. Please do it. Deborah was amazing. And thanks for sharing that. I didn't know that about your mom. That she was a nurse. So please tune in next week when I have another. Another really great guest next week. Thanks for tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday. Talk to you later. Bye.